What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 1 for Grange Food Company. We're going to be creating new recipe videos each week here on our YouTube channel, so if you're interested in that, go ahead and subscribe to us and like this video. It really helps us out. Be sure and let us know what you want to see us cook. That's what we're going to base this off of, and we're going to try to use fresh ingredients as much as possible. My wife and I made a recipe video end of last year on some homemade pasta. That's so Rachel commented saying that she wanted to see us make some homemade ZAAAAA. So that was 29 weeks ago. We said stay tuned. I hope you haven't been waiting that long, but Rachel, here we go, episode 1, homemade ZAAAAA. We're gonna do a classic lasagna all from scratch. Talking noodles, meat sauce. What? What do you mean?
Yeah.
It says homemade ZAAAAA. How am I supposed to know that's pizza? Do we even have the stuff to make pizza? Alright guys, like I said, episode 1, homemade pizza. Alright, let's make some ZAAAAA. First things first, we gotta start on this dough. It's going to need about 1 to 2 hours to rest, so we're going to start on it first. We're going to start off using 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour. Then we're going to throw in 2 teaspoons of sugar and 1.5 teaspoons of salt and whisk that together. Once you spill a little bit, be sure to wipe it into the cracks. Your wife will really appreciate that. Alright, now we've got about 1 cup of warm water. You need to make sure it's still warm by contaminating it with your finger. And after that, let's go ahead and add 1.5 teaspoons of instant yeast and give that a good mix. After everything's nice and incorporated, you need to let that sit for about 10 minutes so the yeast can activate. Once that's sat there and everything's come together, go ahead and pour that into your dry mixture and realize that a whisk is probably the worst tool in the world for this job. So get rid of that, get a fork or a spoon, and start mixing it together. Once you can, start using your hands to incorporate everything and start forming something close to a ball of dough. Once you have a ball, go ahead and dump that out onto your floured work surface. And from there, we're going to knead this for 5 minutes. That's right, you need to knead it. If you have a stand mixer, go ahead and use that, but not everyone has one, and it's easy to do with your hands. So now that after about 5 minutes you're going to have a nice ball of dough, go ahead and give that a pat on the back and then get a bowl to set it in. Now you need to make sure you put some olive oil in that bowl so that the dough doesn't stick to it while it's rising. Now we're going to place it in there, then we're going to cover it with some plastic wrap. Your dough needs to double in size over the course of the next few hours. I thought it'd be cool to show you where it started and then show you in 2 hours where it finished. Boy, was I wrong. Set that in a warm spot to rise for the next 2 hours. Then we're going to start on the tomato sauce. Now, first thing you need to do is argue with your wife over whether or not you're going to make a mess. And once you've successfully not made a mess, be sure and let her know. But today we're using San Marzano tomatoes. We have 28 ounces here in a can. And we're going to throw in about 4 cloves of garlic. Give it a sprinkle of salt and a little bit of sugar. And then you can add whatever else you like. I add some crushed red pepper and a little bit of fennel. And from there we're going to throw in some fresh herbs that we picked during the day. We've got some basil, some oregano, and thyme. Use whatever you like. You don't have to use any at all. Then should be the next part, which is very simple. Just turn the blender on and blend it, which you would think would be very simple. However, it works better with the power turned on. Blend that up until it's nice and smooth. And this right here is a perfectly good sauce to throw straight on some dough. However, I like to simmer it while I'm getting everything else ready. I think it really thickens up the sauce and lets the flavors come together. We're going to go ahead and get our oven preheated to 500 degrees and set our pizza stone in it. Now it's time to talk about the toppings. We're simple people. We like simple toppings. People these days will put literally anything on a pizza. Today we're just going to use some green pepper, red onion, and pepperoni. Now, I really recommend getting the pepperoni and slicing it yourself. I think the quality is much better. Here we have a pineapple. We're just gonna get ready to cut it and then stop, and remember, it's a pizza and pineapple doesn't belong on pizza. So get rid of that and then make sure you have all your ingredients ready to go. Now this has been 2 hours and our dough has doubled in size, as you can see, and this is where things really went wrong. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I have to get that off there before my wife sees it. So any tips would be really appreciated. But we're just gonna dump our pizza dough out onto the work surface here. We're gonna cut it in half. This will make 2 8 to 10 inch pizzas. We're gonna let those sit for 15 to 20 minutes. So we have some flour. We're just gonna set that on a baking tray and let that continue to rise for another 15 to 20 minutes. Then you can go ahead and wipe your hands over the floor so the flour gets there. Your wife, again, really appreciates anywhere you can get the flour. So go ahead now, take your first pizza and start punching it in the middle so it'll expand outward. And this is pretty self-explanatory. You're just gonna work the dough out. And really and truly, you only make homemade pizza dough for one reason, and that's to toss it. So go ahead and get ready to toss that bad boy, and I'll show you the perfect execution. Wow, would you look at that? Let's look at that again. Look at that toss. Perfect 3-foot toss, not too high, not too low, full 360 degrees of rotation. That's how it's done. Now, if your dough is kind of thin on one spot, kind of work the dough so that there's no thin spots anywhere in that pizza dough. Now, if you have a pizza peel, you can use that instead, but not everybody has one of those, so we're gonna use the back side of a cutting board. We're gonna throw some cornmeal and some flour down and set the dough on top of that. That's gonna help us get the pizza off of the cutting board and onto the stone. Next part's pretty self-explanatory. You're gonna take your pizza sauce and just kind of work it out towards the crust, leaving room for the crust. Now, if you live in Paris, France, you can have some really high quality cheese available to you. If you live in Paris, Tennessee, that's not really the case. We do not have any luck finding any whole mozzarella that we were able to shred ourselves. If you can get the real stuff, we had to settle for the pre-shredded stuff. Now, we got our pepperoni, red onion, and green pepper. Lay this out however you want. As long as there's not pineapple on it, there's no right or wrong way to do it. Now, make sure it's gonna slide, otherwise put some more cornmeal on it, then get ready to slide it on the stone. Be sure and slide it 3 inches too far. In all seriousness, if this does happen, don't freak out. This is a really hot oven. Just take your time and work it back on there like I did. Now, while that's baking, we're gonna take some butter and garlic and melt that together. We're just gonna brush the crust once it comes out of the oven. And we're gonna hit it with some fresh grated Parmesan. If you wanted to throw some basil on top of that, you could do that here. Whatever you want, this is your pizza. All right, guys, it's finally time to eat. I know it seems like it's been a lot of work to get to this point. This makes it all worth it. Just listen to that crust. I mean, I love a frozen pizza as much as the next guy, but it really pales in comparison. And to be honest, it's kind of fun to make. You know, this is something you can do with the kids and get them to help you make the dough. And this is something they eat all the time already. You can show them how much better it can be using fresh ingredients. And listen, I know this isn't a classic Italian pizza, but it's really good. Hopefully y'all can enjoy it as much as we do. And Rachel, sorry it took us so long to get back to you, but here's our homemade ZAAAAA. If anybody has any questions or recommendations on what we should cook next, just leave them in the comments and we'll try to get back to you. If you enjoyed this video, it would help us out tremendously if you would like this video and subscribe to our channel if you're interested in more cooking videos like this.